The crystalline spires of the Luminary Research Station Alpha gleamed against the swollen red mass of their dying sun. Inside the station's central observatory, Dr. Vextal's four-fingered hand pressed against the transparent aluminum viewport, her iridescent skin reflecting the ominous light. The star that had nurtured their civilization for millennia was betraying them, and even their most advanced predictions had failed to see it coming. Primary containment field at 23% and falling, announced the station's AI. Its tone as measured and logical as all luminary technology. Stellar mass ejection imminent. Vextal's bondmate, senior engineer Lex Thor, worked frantically at the quantum interface terminal. His normally perfect composure had cracked, showing the fear that luminary society taught them to suppress. The harmonic stabilizers aren't responding. The star's decay pattern doesn't match any known models. Divert power from the secondary research rings, Vextal ordered. Her crystalline neural implants processing data streams faster than any organic brain could manage. But the numbers didn't add up. The star's behavior defied their most advanced theoretical frameworks. The viewport's automatic filters struggled to compensate as another solar flare erupted, larger than any they'd recorded. Lex Thor looked up from his station, his eyes meeting Vextal's. In that moment, decades of emotional suppression shattered. "We were wrong," he said softly. "All our certainty, all our pursuit of perfection." The flare struck. The station's shields, designed to withstand the most extreme stellar phenomena their models could predict, lasted less than a second. Vextal watched, helpless, as the observation deck's outer ring disintegrated. The last thing she saw was Lex Thor reaching for her before the blast wave hit. She awoke in the emergency shelter, one of only 47 survivors from a crew of thousands. Their civilization's greatest minds, their most advanced research, gone in an instant. The shelter's communications array remained intact, and the automated distress protocols were already broadcasting their situation to the Galactic Council. But Vextal did something unprecedented in luminary history. She pushed aside the AI's carefully formatted distress message and broadcast her own. Not in the precise, emotional, neutral language of her people, but in a raw, desperate plea that broke every protocol of their society. "This is Dr. Vextal of the Luminary Research Station Alpha. Our sun is dying. Our models have failed. Our certainty has failed. We need help." Her voice cracked on the last word, something that would normally bring shame to her people. "Not just our technology, not just our science. We need new perspectives, different perspectives. Please, anyone who can hear this, we were wrong to think we had all the answers." The message rippled across subspace, reaching worlds far beyond the luminary system. Most advanced civilizations received it with their usual filters, AI systems automatically categorizing and prioritizing its technical components. But on Earth, in a modest research facility in Malaysia, Dr. Sarah Chen heard something different. She had been working late, running simulations on her latest fusion containment theory, work that her colleagues dismissed as too unorthodox. The message caught her attention not because of its technical specifications, but because of its emotion. It reminded her of another voice, years ago, warning of containment field irregularities moments before the accident that took her family. Sarah replayed the message, her hands hovering over her holographic interface. The star's decay pattern. There was something familiar about it. Something that reminded her of her own failed experiments, but on a cosmic scale. "Computer, overlay the luminary star's decay pattern with the containment field collapse from Incident 47B, she commanded. The patterns aligned with a correlation that made her breath catch. It was the same cascade, the same fundamental flaw that everyone else had missed because they were looking for perfection rather than understanding the beauty of chaos. She opened a channel to the Space Force Command. "This is Dr. Sarah Chen. Get me Commander Rodriguez. I know what's happening to the luminary star, and more importantly, I think I know how to fix it." In her mind, she could still hear Vextal's plea. The luminary had advanced technology, perfect logic, and flawless precision. But what they needed now was something else entirely. They needed humanity's greatest strength, the ability to learn from failure, to find hope in imperfection, and to keep trying long after logic said to give up. The dying star of Nexus Prime was about to learn what happened when humanity decided to solve an impossible problem. Commander James Rodriguez's office at Space Force Command lived up to his reputation. Organized chaos. Star charts covered the walls, half-finished coffee cups littered his desk, and a holographic display flickered with ship designs that defied conventional wisdom. The man himself stood with his back to Dr. Sarah Chen, staring out at the Singapore spaceport, where Earth's latest vessels prepared for launch. "You're telling me," he said, turning to face her, "that the most advanced civilization in the known galaxy can't solve their own problem. But you can." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth, the same smile that had infuriated superior officers throughout his career. Sarah pulled up her data models on his holographic display. "Look at this pattern. Everyone's treating the star's decay like it should follow perfect mathematical models. But stars aren't perfect. They're chaos engines, just like our fusion reactors. The ones that exploded." Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "The ones that taught us more in failure than success ever could." Sarah's hands danced through the holographic data. Every failure showed us something new about how plasma containment really works. The luminary. They never fail. They design things to be perfect from the start. But that's not how nature works. Rodriguez studied the patterns, recognition dawning in his eyes. He'd seen similar chaos in space, the unpredictable events that had earned him the nickname Survival Artist after bringing back crews from 3 supposedly unsurvivable situations. "We'll need a team," he said finally. "Not the best. The most interesting." Within hours, they had their shortlist. Dr. Maya Patel, the disgraced AI researcher who claimed machines needed to learn to make mistakes. Tom Chen, no relation to Sarah, a quantum mechanic with synesthesia who insisted he could see energy patterns that shouldn't exist. And most controversially, 16-year-old Zara Williams, whose stellar simulation games were considered too unrealistic by experts, but had predicted 3 solar phenomena that conventional models missed. "They'll never approve this team," Sarah said, looking at their candidates. "Good thing we're not asking for approval." Rodriguez pulled up another file. "Remember the prototype ship they grounded because it was too unstable for safe operation? The Quantum Dream. They said its drive could tear reality apart. Only if you try to make it behave perfectly." Rodriguez grinned. "What if you work with the instability instead of fighting it?" The next 48 hours became a blur of secret meetings and careful preparations. Maya Patel arrived first, smuggling in AI cores that learned through controlled failure. Tom Chen walked into the facility humming what he claimed was the sound of quantum probability. Zara Williams snuck out of her parents' house with a neural interface full of impossibly accurate stellar simulations. The Galactic Council's response to the luminary crisis arrived just as they finished loading equipment onto the Quantum Dream. Earth was deemed too primitive to assist. The system would be quarantined for its own protection, while more advanced civilizations studied the problem. "They'll study it right into a supernova," Tom said, his fingers twitching as he heard the ship's quantum drive spooling up. "The stars singing in quantum harmony. It's beautiful, but it's like jazz instead of classical. They keep trying to force it into perfect rhythm." Zara, meanwhile, had already plugged her simulation rig into the ship's computers. "The Council's models assume everything follows textbook physics, but my games work because stars don't read textbooks. Which is why they're going to fail," Maya added, her modified AIs already learning from the ship's unstable systems. "They'll try the same perfect solutions that aren't working, because their AIs can't imagine being wrong." Sarah looked at her impossible team, the survivors, the misfits, the ones who saw patterns in chaos and possibility in failure. "What we're about to do is completely unauthorized. Probably illegal. Definitely dangerous. Just like everything worth doing, Rodriguez said, settling into the captain's chair. Now, who's ready to save a star with pure human chaos? The quantum dream lifted off under cover of darkness, its unstable drive singing Tom's quantum jazz into the night. They had 48 hours before Earth realized they were gone, and 72 before the Council's quarantine fleet arrived at Nexus Prime. Behind them, the sun rose over Singapore. Ahead lay a dying star, and a civilization that would soon learn that perfection wasn't everything it was supposed to be. Humanity's greatest strength was about to show the galaxy that sometimes the best solutions come from embracing the beautiful chaos of possibility. The Quantum Dreams bridge hummed with nervous energy as they approached the first Council checkpoint. They had 12 minutes before Earth's Space Force would discover their unauthorized launch, and the Council's quarantine fleet was already mobilizing. "Status?" Rodriguez asked, his hands hovering over the helm controls. Maya's fingers danced across her neural interface. "I've got 3 Council AI systems scanning us. They're looking for the latest registration protocols." She smiled. "Lucky for us, they're too perfect to imagine someone using outdated codes." The ship's quantum drive pulsed erratically, making conventional sensors struggle to get a lock on them. Tom sat cross-legged on the deck, eyes closed, humming in harmony with the drive's fluctuations. The probability waves are dancing, like watching the northern lights, but in quantum space. In English, Sarah said, monitoring the star charts. "We're essentially quantum static. Their sensors can't distinguish us from background noise." Zara, meanwhile, had transformed her gaming rig into an impromptu tactical system. Council ships always follow optimal patrol patterns, but optimal is predictable. Her hands flew across the holographic interface. "See, there's a gap in their coverage every 7.3 minutes when they correct their formation to maintain perfect spacing." Rodriguez grinned, "And imperfect humans can slip right through their perfect net." The first alarm blared. Earth had discovered their theft. Sarah watched as Space Force vessels began launching, but they were already too late. The Quantum Dream's erratic drive signature masked their trajectory, making pursuit impossible through conventional means. "Council transmission incoming," Maya announced. "They're broadcasting the quarantine announcement." The message played through the bridge speakers. "Attention all vessels. The Nexus Prime system is under emergency quarantine. The situation requires careful study by qualified civilizations. All primitive or non-approved vessels are forbidden from." "Mute that," Rodriguez ordered. "Zara, find us that gap." The teenage prodigy's fingers blurred over her controls. "Got it. Quantum probability field aligning with patrol gap in 3, 2, 1. The Quantum Dream surged forward, its unstable drive turning their greatest weakness into an advantage. They weren't fighting the quantum fluctuations. They were surfing them, riding the waves of probability that the Council's perfect ships couldn't even detect. "Multiple ships on intercept," Maya reported. "Their AIs are adapting." "But," she laughed, "they're trying to predict our pattern. They don't understand that our pattern is having no pattern." Tom's humming grew louder, matching the drive's resonance. "The quantum field is reaching critical harmony. If we time this right." "Council vessels launching interceptors," Zara called out. "But look, they're targeting where their computers say we should be, not where we are." Sarah watched as bright energy beams sliced through empty space, the Council's perfect targeting systems missing them by kilometers because they refused to accept that any ship would fly so incorrectly. "We've got bigger problems," Maya interrupted. "The quarantine fleet at Nexus Prime. They're not just blocking access. They're preparing to evacuate the system." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Evacuate? There are billions of luminary in that system." "Priority evacuation only," Maya confirmed, her modified AIs decoding the encrypted transmissions. "They're going to save the essential population and abandon the rest." The bridge fell silent except for Tom's humming and the quantum drive's pulse. They all knew what that meant. The council had already decided the star was beyond saving. They would preserve the luminary's leadership and scientific elite, leaving the rest to die when the star finally went nova. Like hell they will, Rodriguez growled. Maya, can you use their own protocols against them? The AI researcher's smile turned predatory. Their authentication systems are perfect, which means her hands flew across the interface. Got it. We now have Priority 1 clearance, officially dispatched by the Council themselves to assist with the evacuation. They'll figure it out eventually, Sarah warned. They will, Rodriguez agreed. But by then, we'll be past their lines. Sometimes the best way to break rules is to follow them so perfectly that nobody questions you. The Quantum Dream continued its controlled chaos dance through space, its impossible crew of misfits and dreamers carrying humanity's greatest hope, the ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. They were now fugitives from Earth and the Council alike, racing against time and protocol to save billions of lives. As they approached the final checkpoint, Zara looked up from her tactical display. You know what's funny? In every game I designed, the players who followed the rules perfectly always lost. It was the ones who learned to improvise who survived. That's humanity's real strength, Sarah said softly. We don't just think outside the box. We take the box apart and build something new from the pieces. Ahead of them, Nexus Prime's dying star pulsed an angry red. They had hours before the Council realized their deception, and days before the star reached critical instability. But they had one advantage no other species could match: the human ability to turn chaos into opportunity. Rodriguez set their final course. Let's show the galaxy what primitive humans can do. The Luminary High Council chamber was a testament to geometric perfection. Every angle precisely calculated, every surface flawlessly polished, which made the humans' chaotic arrival all the more jarring. The Quantum Dream materialized inside the Council's security perimeter, its quantum drive spewing probability distortions that set every luminary sensor into fits. Dr. Vextal watched from her position among the Council members as the ship's landing shattered 3 ornamental crystal sculptures and left scorch marks in a spiral pattern across the previously immaculate docking bay. That's technically a landing, Rodriguez announced as he descended the ship's ramp, his uniform wrinkled from their quantum jumps. The Luminary High Chancellor's crystalline skin flickered with barely suppressed emotion. You damaged the ceremonial arrival platform. We improved it, Zara called out, already scanning the chamber with her gaming rig. Now it's got character. The Chancellor turned to Vextal. These are your promised saviors. These primitives. Before she could respond, alarms blared throughout the chamber. Sarah rushed forward, her hands flying over her portable interface. That's a solar prominence forming, aimed right at your third moon. The Luminary's perfect protocols activated. Evacuation orders were issued. Emergency fields powered up. Everything proceeded according to carefully designed plans that would take exactly 7.4 minutes to implement. The moon will be hit in 6.2 minutes, Tom announced, his synesthesia letting him see the approaching wave of plasma. Rodriguez turned to his crew. Time to improvise. Maya, can you override their defense grid? Their AI won't let me in. It says my code is too irregular. Good thing irregular is exactly what we need. Sarah was already connecting her fusion containment algorithms to the Luminary defense systems. Zara, remember that unrealistic solar flare deflection mechanic from your game. The teenager's eyes lit up. The one everyone said would never work in real life. On it. What followed was 4 minutes of pure human chaos. Maya's imperfect AI merged with the Luminary systems, creating defensive patterns that no logical mind would conceive. Tom hummed the quantum resonance frequencies, helping Sarah tune the shield harmonics. Zara's game physics, derived from countless hours of players finding exploits and impossible solutions, proved more accurate than the Luminary's perfect models. The solar flare struck. The moon's surface blazed with diverted plasma, forming intricate patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't so terrifying. When the energy dissipated, the moon was scorched but intact. 3 million luminary colonists survived, saved by solutions their own civilization would never have considered valid. In the stunned silence that followed, a young luminary engineer broke protocol. "How did you know that would work?" "We didn't," Rodriguez admitted, "but humans are really good at figuring things out on the fly." "Impossible," the High Chancellor declared. "Your methods defy all established principles of stellar physics." "Yeah, we get that a lot," Sarah said, already analyzing the flare data. "But look at these readings. Your star isn't following established principles either. It's like it's trying to play jazz while your models expect classical music." "An apt metaphor," Tom added, still humming. "The quantum harmonics are shifting away from perfect resonance. The star's not dying, it's evolving." Zora had plugged her gaming rig into the luminary stellar observation systems. "Check this out," she called, bringing up a simulation that made several council members visibly flinch at its apparent chaos. "Your models assume everything follows perfect rules. But in my games, players found out that sometimes breaking the rules is the only way to win." Vextel stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her cultural programming. "Show me." What followed was a crash course in human problem-solving. Sarah explained how Earth's fusion research advanced more from studying failures than successes. Maya demonstrated how letting AI make mistakes led to breakthrough solutions. Tom translated quantum harmonics into visual patterns that revealed hidden order within chaos. And Zora's games, built on the collective creativity of millions of players finding impossible solutions, showed possibilities that no single mind, human or luminary, could have conceived. "Your methods are irregular, unpredictable, and completely contrary to established doctrine," the High Chancellor finally declared. "Thank you." Rodriguez grinned. "That was not a compliment." "It was to us," Sarah countered, "because those irregular, unpredictable methods just saved 3 million lives, and they might be exactly what we need to save your star." The chamber's perfect silence was broken by another alarm. The star was entering a new phase of instability, and the Council's quarantine fleet had detected their deception. They had hours at most before the fleet arrived to stop their primitive interference. Vextel faced her fellow council members. "We sought help from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Perhaps it is time we considered help from its most innovative one instead." The humans exchanged glances. They had gotten the luminaries' attention. Now came the hard part: convincing the most perfectionist species in the galaxy that imperfection might be exactly what they needed. Deep within the luminary's stellar observation complex, Sarah Chen stared at the holographic representation of their dying sun, its angry red mass churning with unexpected patterns. But it wasn't the star's chaos that made her hands shake. It was the memory of another containment failure, one that had taken everything from her. "Your emotional state is irregular, Dr. Chen," Vextal observed, her crystalline features reflecting the hologram's crimson light. "Perhaps you should allow a more stable researcher to." "No," Sarah interrupted, forcing her hand steady. "This emotion, this fear, it's exactly what we need right now. Your people tried to perfect your son, didn't you?" The luminary scientist's perfect posture faltered slightly. "The Stellar Enhancement Initiative. 300 years ago, our greatest minds developed a way to optimize our star's fusion processes, to make it burn cleaner, more efficiently. And now it's dying because of it." Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Just like our first fusion reactors. We tried to make them perfect, to control every aspect of the reaction. And they failed catastrophically." Tom looked up from his quantum harmonics analysis, his eyes unfocused as he saw the energy patterns. The stars fighting back against the optimization, like a dancer being forced to follow steps that don't match the music. "Impossible," another luminary scientist declared. "Our modifications were mathematically perfect. That's the problem. Maya's modified AIs were processing centuries of stellar data. You tried to impose perfect order on a chaotic system, But chaos isn't just random noise. It's a fundamental part of how stars work. Zara, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly straightened in her chair. Look at this. Her gaming rig displayed a simulation that made the luminary scientists recoil. Every time your optimization tries to force a perfect fusion pattern, the star creates these counter-harmonics. It's like when players in my game find ways around the intended mechanics. The star's trying to restore its natural chaos, Sarah realized. And your perfection protocols are fighting it, creating a feedback loop that's tearing it apart. A new alarm blared. The Council quarantine fleet had been detected at the system's edge. They had hours at most before diplomatic immunity would no longer protect them. We don't have time for a perfect solution, Rodriguez announced from his position near the door. We need to act now. Without proper protocols, without peer review, the luminary scientists looked horrified. Sometimes, Sarah said, finally facing the memories she'd been running from, you have to embrace the chaos to prevent disaster. I learned that too late with our fusion project. We kept trying to perfect the containment field instead of working with the plasma's natural flows. By the time I realized our mistake, she pulled up the fusion accident data, laying it side by side with the star's patterns. Look, the same cascading failure, just on a stellar scale. We're not seeing a star's death. We're seeing it try to heal itself, fighting against artificial constraints. Vextel moved closer to the display, her scientific curiosity warring with centuries of cultural programming. The correlation is irregular but undeniable. But how can imperfection be the answer? Because imperfection allows adaptation, Maya explained. My AIs learned more from their mistakes than their successes. They evolved solutions no perfect system could imagine. Tom's humming had changed pitch, matching some harmony only he could perceive. The quantum state is shifting. The star's natural resonance is trying to reassert itself. We need to help it, Sarah declared, not by adding more control, but by letting go. By removing the optimization protocols and letting the star's own chaos restore balance. Letting go of control. Vextal's voice carried centuries of cultural resistance. Our entire civilization is built on the pursuit of perfection. And that's beautiful, Sarah said softly. But nature isn't perfect. It's resilient, adaptable. Look at Earth. Earthquakes, storms, volcanoes, all that chaos makes our world stronger, not weaker. Life itself evolved through beautiful imperfection. The chamber fell silent except for Tom's humming and the distant rumble of the dying star. The luminary scientists looked at their readings, at the undeniable patterns that defied their perfect models, at the human team that had achieved the impossible through embracing chaos. The Council fleet will try to stop us, Rodriguez reminded them. They'll say we're too primitive to understand the complexities involved. Maybe that's our advantage, Sarah suggested. We're primitive enough to see that sometimes the most elegant solution is letting go of the need for elegance. Vextel straightened. Decision made. What do you need from us? Everything you've got on the optimization protocols, Sarah said. And something harder, your trust. Because what we're about to try goes against every principle your people hold dear. The star pulsed ominously, as if sensing the coming change. They had one chance to save it, not through perfect control, but through a very human acceptance of chaos. The real question was whether the luminary could accept that their greatest strength, the pursuit of perfection, had become their greatest weakness. The luminary stellar control center hummed with tension as Sarah and her team prepared to implement their unconventional solution. Holographic displays showed the angry red mass of the dying star, its surface writhing against the perfection protocols that were slowly killing it. What you're proposing is madness, the High Chancellor declared, watching as the humans modified their stellar control systems, deliberately introducing chaos into the stellar matrix. It goes against every principle of stellar engineering. Like this, Zar asked, pulling up one of her game simulations. Watch what happens when players found this exploit in my fusion reactor game. The simulation showed a containment field that pulsed irregularly, creating a stable rhythm that looked more like a heartbeat than a machine. Impossible, a luminary scientist muttered. The harmonics should tear the system apart. Should, but don't, Maya countered, her modified AIs already adapting the simulation to stellar scale. Because chaos isn't the opposite of order, it's a different kind of order. One that can adapt, evolve, find new equilibriums. Tom sat cross-legged on the floor, humming in complex patterns that somehow matched the star's quantum fluctuations. The original stellar music is still there, under all the perfection protocols, like a symphony trapped in a metronome. Sarah worked at the main control interface, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as she prepared to implement their radical solution. Your optimization program tried to force the star into perfect spherical harmonics. But stars aren't meant to be perfect spheres. They pulse, they flow, they have their own natural rhythms. Like Earth's magnetic field, Rodriguez added from his security station, watching the approaching council fleet. It's irregular, constantly shifting, but that's what makes it strong enough to protect our planet. Vextel moved closer to Sarah's station, her crystalline features reflecting the dying star's light. Our entire civilization is built on the pursuit of perfection. Our architecture, our science, our very culture. And that's incredible, Sarah said softly. The things your people have achieved, they're beautiful. But nature needs both perfection and chaos. Look at Earth's ecosystems. They're messy, complicated, sometimes seemingly random, but that's what makes them resilient. She pulled up an image of Earth's Amazon rainforest alongside a luminary agricultural center. Your farms are perfect geometric patterns, every plant identical. Ours are chaotic, with multiple species supporting each other in ways we're still discovering. Both work, but ours can survive disease, climate change, and challenges we never expected. Because of imperfection. The High Chancellor's tone made it clear how horrifying the concept was. Because of adaptation, Maya corrected. My AIs learn more from their mistakes than their successes. They evolve solutions no perfect system could imagine. Zara's gaming rig beeped an alert. Council ships entering the system. Time to chaos is running out. Sarah took a deep breath. The star's core is fighting against the optimization, trying to restore its natural fusion patterns. We need to help it, not by adding more control, but by letting go. By removing the protocols and introducing controlled instability. Controlled instability. The luminary scientists looked like they might shatter from the contradiction. Like a heart beating, Sarah explained. Not perfect, but strong, resilient, alive. She turned to Vextel. Your people tried to perfect your son. But what if perfection isn't what it needs? What if it needs to be alive instead? The chamber fell silent except for Tom's humming, which had grown more complex, weaving together order and chaos in patterns that shouldn't work but somehow did. The luminary watched their displays, seeing their star's death written in perfect mathematical models that had failed to predict any of this. The council ships will be here in 6 hours, Rodriguez reported. They'll try to stop us, to preserve their perfect solution, even if it means sacrificing billions. Vextel straightened, decision crystallizing. Then we must act now. What do you need? Access to the original optimization protocols, Sarah said, and something harder, your trust. Because what we're about to do will look like destruction before it looks like salvation. The star pulsed again, as if sensing the coming change. They had one chance to save it, not through perfect control, but through a very human acceptance of beautiful imperfection. The real question was whether the luminary could accept that their greatest strength, the pursuit of perfection, had become their greatest weakness. Begin the chaos protocols, Sarah ordered, her hand steady on the controls. Let's show the galaxy that sometimes the most perfect solution is allowing imperfection to thrive. The star's surface churned as they began dismantling 3 centuries of perfect control, replacing it with something newer, messier, and ultimately more alive. The Luminary watched in horror and fascination as their precious order gave way to controlled chaos, and their dying star began to wake up. Multiple council ships dropping out of hyperspace. Rodriguez's warning cut through the tense atmosphere of the stellar control center. Their weapons are hot. Sarah's hands flew across the holographic controls as she continued dismantling the star's optimization protocols. Each layer they removed revealed new complexities, patterns within patterns that had been suppressed for centuries. We need more time. The star's natural rhythms are starting to reassert themselves, but if we rush this, a blast rocked the station. Maya's modified AIs screamed warnings as council override attempts hammered their defenses. They're trying to reactivate the perfection protocols. Not happening, Zora declared, her gaming rig now interfaced directly with the station's defense grid. I've got 7 years of speedrunning experience. Let's see how their perfect tactical AI handles this. Her fingers danced across the controls, implementing impossible maneuvers learned from countless gaming sessions. Tom's humming suddenly shifted pitch. The quantum harmonics are destabilizing. We're losing the resonance pattern. Through the station's viewports, they watched the Council's pristine white ships move into attack formation, a perfect geometric pattern that would have been beautiful if it wasn't aimed at them. The lead vessel's commander appeared on their main screen, his expression a mask of calculated superiority. This is Admiral Sittle of the Galactic Council. Your primitive interference ends now. Stand down and prepare for. Mute that, Rodriguez ordered. I've heard enough perfect speeches for one day. He turned to Sarah. How long do you need? 10 minutes to safely remove the remaining protocols. 3 if we don't care about being safe. Another blast shook the station. We've got about 2, Rodriguez grimaced. Vextal stepped forward, her crystalline features catching the light of weapons fire. Then we do something unprecedented. She turned to her fellow luminary. We improvise. The word sent a shock through the luminary scientists, but they moved with surprising speed once the decision was made. Centuries of pursuing perfection had made them incredibly precise, even in chaos. Maya, link your learning AIs with our defense systems, Vextal ordered. Tom, can you translate those quantum harmonics into targeting data? The quantum mechanics' eyes widened. The resonance patterns, they're not just in the star. They're everywhere. The Council ships are actually disrupting the natural flow of space-time with their perfect formations. Zara, show us how to exploit that, Rodriguez grinned. The teenager's face lit up with competitive fire. Their ships are running perfect prediction algorithms. But in my game, the players who only followed perfect strategies always lost to creative chaos. Watch this. What followed was a symphony of controlled chaos. Maya's imperfect AIs introduced random variables that the Council's tactical computers couldn't predict. Tom hummed guidance to the defense systems, using quantum harmonics to slip their countermeasures through gaps in reality that perfect sensors couldn't detect. Zora's unrealistic tactical maneuvers proved devastatingly effective against ships that could only think in straight lines and perfect curves. The stars responding, Sarah called out. Its natural fusion patterns are reasserting themselves. But the energy release, a massive solar flare erupted, far larger than anything their models had predicted. But instead of fighting it, they worked with it. Luminary and human together, they rode the wave of chaos, using its power to disrupt the Council fleet's perfect formation. Impossible. Admiral Xitl's voice crackled through despite the mute. Their tactics defy all strategic logic. That's humanity's secret weapon, Rodriguez laughed. We don't make sense. But victory had a price. The station's structural integrity was failing, power systems overloading as they channeled forces that were never meant to be controlled, only guided. Primary systems critical, the station's AI announced with perfect calm. Collision with Council vessels imminent. No perfect solution available. Good thing we don't need perfect. Sarah's hands blurred across the controls. Zara, Give me one of your impossible moves." The teenager's game simulation overlaid the tactical display. "This one's called the Phoenix Gambit. It's technically a glitch, but it works." They executed the maneuver, a reality-defying combination of quantum slipstream and controlled overload that no sane engineer would ever attempt. The station spun through space, bleeding plasma and defying physics, while the Council fleet's perfect formation shattered trying to predict their unpredictable course. Tom's humming reached a fever pitch. The quantum resonance is approaching critical harmony. Now or never. Sarah looked at Vextal. Human determination meeting luminary precision. Together. The luminary scientist's perfect posture relaxed into something more natural, more alive. Together. Let chaos ring. Their hands met on the final control, human and luminary united in wonderful imperfection. Around them, the star began to pulse with new life, while the Council fleet hung powerless in space, their perfect systems overwhelmed by the beauty of chaos unleashed. The station's lights flickered, systems failing as the energy wave approached. But in that moment of crisis, they had achieved something greater than victory. They had proven that perfection wasn't the only path to salvation. Sometimes, the most perfect solution was no solution at all. The star pulsed with new life, its surface a dance of controlled chaos that sent waves of color rippling through Nexus Prime's sky. In the partially restored stellar control center, humans and luminaries stood together, watching their impossible success unfold. "Look at that rhythm," Sarah breathed, tracking the stellar harmonics. "It's not perfect, but it's stable. More stable than it's been in centuries." Tom had finally stopped humming, but his fingers still tapped out the quantum resonance patterns. It's like jazz instead of classical music. Every imperfection adds to the whole. Through the viewport, they could see the Council fleet still struggling to restore their perfect formations. Their tactical AIs, faced with scenarios that defied their fundamental programming, had resorted to running continuous reboots. "The Council ships are hailing us," Maya reported, her modified AIs still running interference in the station's systems. "Though I think sputtering in disbelief might be more accurate." Admiral Xitl's image appeared on their main screen, his perfect composure noticeably fractured. This is unprecedented. The star's energy patterns violate every known law of stellar physics." "No," Zora corrected, her gaming rig displaying the new stellar model. "They violate every artificial law you try to impose on stellar physics. The actual physics is working fine. You just never let it." The Council Admiral's expression shifted through several attempts at perfect diplomatic poise before settling on something closer to genuine confusion. "But our models, our predictions, were perfect," Sarah finished. "That was the problem. You tried to force a living star into perfect mathematical patterns. But stars aren't meant to be perfect. They're meant to be alive." Vextal stepped forward, her crystalline features reflecting the new colors from their transformed sun. "For centuries, we pursued perfection in all things. We thought we were improving upon nature's design." She gestured to the pulsing star. "Instead, we were fighting against the very chaos that gives the universe its strength." The Admiral's image flickered as another wave of stellar energy washed over them. But this wave wasn't destructive. It was life-giving, carrying the kind of radiation that planets needed to thrive. "Impossible," one of the Council scientists muttered. "The energy output is irregular. The fusion patterns are chaotic. The magnetic fields are." "Beautiful," Rodriguez finished, "just like every natural system that actually works." Sarah pulled up comparative scans. "Look at your own data. The star's fusion rate is higher than your perfect models achieved. Its energy distribution more efficient. Not because we controlled it better, but because we stopped trying to control it at all." "The players in my games figured this out years ago," Zara added. "The ones who tried to perfect every strategy always lost to the ones who could adapt, who could find the beauty in chaos." Maya's AIs displayed the new stellar patterns alongside Earth's natural systems, river deltas, weather patterns, Ecosystem webs. Life itself evolved through imperfection. Every failure, every mutation, every mistake was a chance to become something new, something stronger. The Council fleet hung in space, their perfect formations now seeming stiff and unnatural compared to the living dance of the star behind them. Admiral Xitl's expression had shifted from diplomatic mask to something approaching wonder. The Council will need to reevaluate many of its fundamental assumptions, he finally said. Perhaps perfection is not the only path to advancement. It's not a path at all, Tom said softly, still feeling the quantum harmonics. It's a cage, one we build ourselves. Vextal turned to her fellow luminary, their perfect postures gradually relaxing as they watched their son come alive. We sought help from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Instead, we found wisdom from those we thought primitive. Not primitive, Sarah corrected. Just comfortable with chaos, with being imperfect, with failing and learning and trying again. The star pulsed once more, settling into its new rhythm. Not a perfect sphere of controlled fusion, but a living thing of beauty and power. Its light played across the crystalline architecture of the luminary cities, creating rainbow patterns that had never existed in their perfectly ordered world. The Council formally withdraws its objection to Earth's intervention, Admiral Xitl announced, and proposes the establishment of a new cultural exchange program. There is clearly much we could learn from each other. Rodriguez grinned. Just wait until we show you Earth's music, if you think this is chaotic. The chamber filled with laughter, human and luminary together, the sound itself a beautiful imperfection in what had once been a perfectly silent hall. Outside, their star continued its dance of ordered chaos, a testament to the greatest truth humanity had brought to the galaxy. Sometimes, the most perfect thing you can be is perfectly imperfect. Maya's AIs were already cataloging the changes in stellar physics. Tom was teaching young luminary scientists to feel quantum harmonics. Zara had a crowd of fascinated aliens around her gaming rig, showing them how virtual chaos could predict real solutions. And Sarah and Vextal stood together, watching their impossible success unfold. "What do we do now?" Vextal asked. Sarah smiled. "What humans always do. We improvise." The star pulsed in agreement, its light carrying new possibilities across space, a beacon of beautiful imperfection in a galaxy that was finally learning to embrace the chaos of life itself.